Have you ever wondered what would happen if a political crisis led to a mass exodus of people from one country to another? Imagine the scene. Thousands, perhaps millions of people uprooted and forced to flee their homes, their lives, their country. This is the reality for political refugees worldwide. Now, let's delve into the concept of political refugees. These are individuals who are forced to leave their country due to a well-founded fear of persecution, often due to their political beliefs or affiliations. They are not simply migrants looking for better economic opportunities. These are people whose very lives may be at risk if they stay in their home country. But what factors lead to the creation of political refugees? Well, it could be a variety of things: political instability, civil wars, persecution, ethnic cleansing. The list goes on. Each situation is unique, but the result is often the same: a mass exodus of people seeking safety and security elsewhere. Now let's paint a hypothetical scenario. Imagine Taiwan facing a Chinese invasion. Tensions have been simmering for years, and suddenly they boil over. Chaos ensues. And in the midst of all this, the people of Taiwan are caught up in the crossfire. They are left with no choice but to flee their homes, becoming refugees overnight. And here's the twist. What if these refugees turn to the Philippines for sanctuary? On the surface, it might seem like an odd choice. After all, the Philippines is a developing country with its own set of challenges. But could it provide a safe haven for these hypothetical Taiwanese refugees? But what would happen if these refugees turned to the Philippines for sanctuary? Would the country open its doors to them, or would it turn them away? Just what would it mean for the Philippines, the refugees, and the geopolitical landscape of the region? Keep watching until the end for the answer. And while you're here, why not subscribe and like this video? Your support helps us create more content like this. So stick around, and let's continue this journey together. To understand the potential response, we must first delve into the historical relationship between the Philippines and Taiwan. The history between these two nations is a fascinating tapestry, woven with threads of shared culture, intertwined economies, and complex political dynamics. Despite being separated by the Luzon Strait, the Philippines and Taiwan have shared a long and complex history. Their shared cultural aspects are evident in many ways. The indigenous people of Taiwan, the Austronesians, share linguistic and genetic ties with the Filipinos. This common ancestry has resulted in shared traditions, customs, and even folklore. The bond between the two nations is not only cultural, but also economic. The Philippines and Taiwan are important trading partners, with bilateral trade reaching nearly $17 billion in 2024. On the political front, the relationship between the Philippines and Taiwan has seen its share of ups and downs. The Philippines, like most nations, adheres to the One China policy, recognizing the People's Republic of China over Taiwan. Yet, the nations have managed to maintain strong unofficial relations, conducting trade and engaging in various forms of cooperation. Historically, the Philippines has shown a willingness to accept refugees. In the late 1930s and early 40s, the Philippines opened its doors to Jewish refugees fleeing the Holocaust. In the late 70s, the country provided refuge to Vietnamese fleeing the Vietnam War. These instances demonstrate the Philippines' tradition of providing asylum to those in need. However, it's important to note that these instances occurred under different political leadership and international circumstances. The question of whether the Philippines would accept Taiwanese refugees is not just a matter of historical precedent, but also of current political will and international pressures. But history is just one piece of the puzzle. What about the current political climate? The next scene will delve into the present-day dynamics that could influence the Philippines' response. So, stay tuned as we explore the intricacies of the current political landscape in the Philippines and its potential impact on the fate of Taiwanese refugees. The present political environment plays a significant role in determining a country's response to a refugee crisis. In the heart of Southeast Asia, the Philippines finds itself navigating a delicate balance in its international relations. especially when it comes to Taiwan and China. The country has a long history of interactions with both nations, and these relationships have evolved and shifted over time, influenced by various political, economic, and social factors. The Philippines and Taiwan share a robust economic partnership, with Taiwan being one of the Philippines' top trading partners. This economic interdependence has fostered a positive relationship between the two nations. However, the Philippines also maintains a significant relationship with China, a global superpower with considerable influence in the region. This relationship is fueled by a combination of economic ties, diplomatic engagements, and a shared history. In the realm of politics, the Philippines' official stance is one of One China policy, recognizing Beijing as the legitimate representative of all of China. However, the country also maintains unofficial relations with Taiwan, resulting in a complex and often delicate diplomatic dance. Public opinion plays a crucial role in shaping the political landscape. The sentiment of the Filipino people towards Taiwan and China can influence the government's actions and decisions, including its approach to a potential refugee crisis. In recent years, public opinion has been swaying due to various factors, including the South China Sea disputes, economic considerations, and human rights issues. The Philippines' refugee policy is also influenced by international relations and global politics. The country is part of international conventions and treaties related to refugees and human rights, which guide its actions and decisions in the face of a refugee crisis. However, these international obligations must be balanced with national interests and regional dynamics. In conclusion, the current political climate in the Philippines, characterized by its relationships with Taiwan and China, public opinion, and international obligations, could play a critical role in determining its response to a potential Taiwanese refugee crisis. However, policies and politics aren't the only factors. What about the practicality of accepting refugees? Accepting refugees is not just a matter of political will. There are practical considerations too. Firstly, let's consider the economic impact. The sudden influx of a large number of people into any country can strain resources, especially for a developing nation like the Philippines. Accommodating refugees would mean providing them with basic necessities like food, shelter, healthcare, and education, which could significantly burden the national budget. However, it's also important to remember that refugees can contribute economically. They bring skills, talents, and even capital that could stimulate economic growth and create job opportunities. Then, there's the question of social integration. How will the local population react to the arrival of a large group of foreigners? Will they be welcomed with open arms or met with resistance? The Philippines, being a country known for its hospitality, may initially embrace these newcomers. But if the refugee situation persists, social tensions could arise. Factors like cultural differences, language barriers, and competition for jobs and resources could lead to friction between the locals and the refugees. Lastly, we have to consider potential backlash. The decision to accept Taiwanese refugees could draw criticism from China, a key trade partner of the Philippines. Could the Philippines risk damaging its relationship with China for the sake of humanitarianism? And what about the potential internal backlash? Would the Filipino public support their government's decision or protest against it? These are all tough questions, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer. Each factor we've discussed carries its own set of challenges and opportunities. It's a complex issue that requires careful thought and balanced decision-making. So, considering all these factors, will the Philippines accept Taiwanese refugees in case of a Chinese invasion? It's a question that involves not just politics and diplomacy, but also economics and society. And it's a question that we'll continue to ponder as we watch the unfolding situation in East Asia. Now, to answer the question we left unanswered at the start, let's recall our journey thus far. We've traced the historical ties between the Philippines and Taiwan, navigated the choppy waters of the current political climate, and considered some very practical factors. But all of this brings us back to the question looming in the air. Will the Philippines accept Taiwanese refugees in case of a Chinese invasion? Given the strong historical ties and economic interdependence, one might be inclined to say yes. The Philippines, with its long history of opening its doors to refugees, might once again choose to stand on the side of humanity. However, we need to remember that the current political climate, particularly the Philippines' relations with China, adds a layer of complexity to this issue. Then there are the practical considerations. Can the Philippines, a developing country already grappling with its own set of challenges, shoulder the responsibility of accommodating a potentially large influx of refugees? Again, there's no straightforward answer. It's a delicate balance between humanitarian responsibility and national capacity. But here's the catch. This is all speculative. We're exploring a hypothetical scenario. The real answer can only be determined if and when such a situation arises. It would be a decision made by those in power, influenced by a multitude of factors, some of which we've discussed today, and others that could be entirely unforeseen. So while we can ponder, speculate, and weigh the possibilities, the final answer remains an enigma, a question left to the future. And that's the beauty of it. It encourages us to think, to question, to explore different scenarios and perspectives. So there you have it. The answer to our question is a question in itself. A question that encourages us to keep learning, keep questioning, and most importantly, to keep wondering. Don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Keep wondering and questioning, because that's how we learn and grow.